The tension hung thick in the air as I took my usual seat at the worn oak table, steeling myself for the confrontation I knew was coming. Ronan's cold, distant gaze never wavered as he folded his hands on the scarred tabletop, the setting sun filtering through the kitchen window, casting an eerie glow on his features. "Alara, we need to talk," he began, his voice carefully measured, devoid of any warmth or emotion. My stomach churned with dread, but I remained silent, waiting for the inevitable. I'm leaving you," Ronan said, the words cutting through the oppressive silence like a knife. I stared at him, stunned, as his next words shattered the fragile veneer of our marriage. "I'm in love with someone else. Celeste. She's pregnant, and we're going to start a new life together." The air left my lungs in a rush, and I gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. Ronan, my husband of 10 years, the man I had built a life with, was abandoning me. For her. A woman young enough to be his daughter, who had wormed her way into our lives under the guise of a perfect, doting partner. "How could you do this to me?" The words escaped my lips in a hoarse whisper, laced with a mixture of disbelief and anguish. "After everything I've sacrificed for you, for your mother." Ronan's eyes narrowed, a flicker of annoyance crossing his features. "Don't make this about you, Alara. This is about my happiness, something I haven't had in a very long time, thanks to you." I recoiled as if he had struck me, the pain of his callous words searing through my chest. "Your happiness?" I spat, my voice rising with each word. "What about my happiness? What about the life we built together?" Ronan scoffed, shaking his head. "That life was nothing but a burden. You constantly nagged me about our finances, about starting a family. I couldn't take it anymore. Celeste understands me in a way you never did." Margot, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, stepped forward, her frail frame trembling with barely contained fury. "How dare you, Ronan? Alara has devoted herself to this family, to caring for you and me. And this is how you repay her?" Ronan's jaw tightened, his gaze flickering to his mother, a spark of defiance in his eyes. "Stay out of this, Mother. This is between Alara and me." "No, Ronan," I interjected, my voice steady despite the maelstrom of emotions raging within me. "This affects all of us. How could you do this? How could you just throw everything away?" Ronan's lips curled into a cold, humorless smile. "Because I can. Because I'm done. I'm leaving, Alara, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." With those final words, he rose from his chair and strode out of the kitchen, leaving me and Margot in stunned silence. I stared at the empty doorway, my mind racing, the weight of his betrayal threatening to crush me. But even as the tears threatened to spill, I knew one thing with certainty. I would not go down without a fight. The minutes after Ronan's bombshell announcement felt like an eternity. Margot and I sat in stunned silence, the air thick with a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. But in the midst of the chaos, a spark of determination ignited within me. "We can't just let him do this," I said, turning to Margot, my voice laced with resolve. "There has to be something we can do." Margot's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of steel in her gaze. "Oh, there is, my dear. That boy has always been reckless, thinking he can get away with anything, but this time he's gone too far." I watched as Margot's fingers tightened around the armrest of her chair, her knuckles turning white. I always knew that Celeste was trouble, the way she wormed her way into our lives, acting all sweet and innocent, but I saw right through her facade. "What do you mean?" I asked, leaning forward. That Margot let out a weary sigh. There were little things, little clues that didn't add up. The way she would always steer the conversation away from her past, the expensive gifts she would lavish on Ronan. I had my suspicions, but I never imagined it would come to this. I felt a surge of hope. If Margot had noticed something off about Celeste, maybe there was a way to uncover the truth and use it against Ronan and his mistress. "We need to dig deeper," I said, determination etching itself into my features. "I won't let him do this to us, to me. Not without a fight." Margot nodded, a grim expression settling on her face. "Then that's exactly what we'll do. I may be old, but I still have a few tricks up my sleeve." Over the next few days, Margot and I set to work, scouring through every piece of information we could find on Celeste. We combed through her social media profiles, her financial records, anything that might give us a clue about her true nature. And then, just as we were about to give up, we stumbled upon a bombshell. "Alara, look at this," Margot said, her voice trembling with a mix of shock and triumph. She thrust a stack of papers into my hands, and as I pored over the documents, I felt my breath catch in my throat. "This can't be real," I whispered, my fingers trembling. She's involved with a criminal organization?" Margot nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It seems our dear Ronan has gotten himself tangled up with some very dangerous people, and if we play our cards right, we can use this to our advantage." I looked up at Margot, a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. "You mean we can get back at them? Make them pay for what they've done?" Margot's lips curled into a grim smile. "Exactly, my dear. And I know just the person who can help us." With that, she reached for the phone, her fingers dancing across the keypad. I watched, a sense of anticipation and trepidation building within me. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. Ronan and Celeste would not get away with this. Not if I had anything to say about it. The phone call Margot made that day proved to be a turning point in our quest for justice. Within a matter of hours, a well-dressed, nondescript man named Everett arrived at our doorstep, his sharp eyes scanning the room with a calculating gaze. "So you've got a problem with your son-in-law and his girlfriend, Everett said, his deep voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Sounds like you ladies could use a little professional help." Margot wasted no time in laying out the details, her voice laced with barely contained fury. "That scoundrel has betrayed my daughter, drained our savings, and is now running off with some harlot who's involved with a criminal organization. We want him to pay for what he's done." Everett's eyebrows rose slightly, and he turned his gaze to me. "And what about you, Miss Alara? Are you ready to play hardball?" I met his stare with unwavering determination. "I am. Ronan has taken everything from me. My marriage, my financial security, my future. I want him to pay for his deceit, and I want Celeste to go down with him." Everett's lips curled into a slight smile. "Good, then let's get to work." Over the next few weeks, Everett proved to be a formidable ally. With his connections and expertise, he swiftly uncovered the truth about Celeste, her involvement with a notorious criminal syndicate, her elaborate web of lies and manipulation. "This Celeste woman is no ordinary mistress," Everett said, his eyes narrowing as he pored over the documentation. "She's using Ronan as a pawn, siphoning his resources to fund her organization's nefarious activities." Margot let out a harsh laugh. "I knew that little viper was up to no good, and Ronan the fool has fallen right into her trap." I felt a grim sense of satisfaction at the revelation. "So, what do we do now? How do we bring them down?" Everett's gaze hardened. "We take them out, one piece at a time. First, we need to expose Celeste's true nature to Ronan, shatter the illusion he's living in. Then we start chipping away at his career and finances until he has nothing left." Margot leaned forward, her eyes glinting with determination. "And what about Celeste's criminal connections? Surely we can use that against her." Everett nodded. "Absolutely. I have a few ideas on how we can disrupt her organization's operations, sow discord among her partners. That should make her very, very uncomfortable." As Everett outlined his plan, I felt a surge of anticipation. Ronan and Celeste had underestimated us, thinking they could get away with their betrayal. But they were wrong. We had the upper hand now, and I was more than ready to use it. "Let's do it," I said, my voice firm. "I want them to pay for what they've done. I want them to feel the same pain and humiliation that they've inflicted on me." Everett's smile widened. "Then let's get to work, ladies. This is going to be a wild ride." With that, we dove headfirst into our carefully crafted scheme, determined to bring Ronan and Celeste's world crashing down around them. I may have been the victim, but now I was the one holding all the cards. The evidence Everett had uncovered was a powerful weapon, and we wasted no time in putting it to use. With a newfound sense of purpose, Margot and I confronted Ronan, ready to unleash the full force of our carefully orchestrated plan. Ronan's face twisted into a sneer as I laid out the damning details before him. "You think a few papers are going to scare me, Alara? I hold all the cards here. Celeste and I are going to start a new life together, and there's nothing you can do to stop us." I felt a surge of anger at his arrogance, his blatant disregard for the pain he had caused. "Oh, Ronan, you have no idea what you're up against," I said, my voice dripping with cold fury. Celeste isn't who you think she is. She's been using you, siphoning your resources to fund her criminal activities. Ronan's eyes widened briefly, but his expression quickly hardened. You're lying. Celeste loves me, and she would never do something like that. Wake up, Ronan, Margot interjected, her frail frame trembling with barely contained rage. Your precious Celeste is nothing more than a snake in the grass, and you're the one who's been fooled. Ronan's jaw tightened, and he leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. You two are grasping at straws. Celeste and I are going to be together, and there's nothing you can do about it. I met his gaze unflinchingly, a steely determination burning in my chest. Oh, we can do plenty, Ronan, and we will. You've taken everything from me. My marriage, my financial security, my future. Now it's time for you to pay. Ronan scoffed, shaking his head. You're delusional, Alara. You think you can just waltz in and ruin my life? I hold all the power here. Celeste and I are going to live happily ever after, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. I felt a surge of disgust at his arrogance, his complete disregard for the pain he had caused. You're wrong, Ronan. We have the evidence to expose Celeste's true nature, and we're going to use it to bring you both down. Ronan's expression darkened, and he leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming against the table. Go ahead, Alara. Do your worst, but I promise you, you'll regret it. With that, he stood and strode out of the room, leaving Margot and me in stunned silence. But as the door slammed shut behind him, I felt a newfound determination settle in my bones. Well, Alara, Margot said, her voice laced with a hint of pride, it seems we've struck a nerve. I nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of my lips. Yes, we have, and now it's time to put our plan into action. Over the next few weeks, Margot and I, with Everett's guidance, set our plan in motion. We meticulously dismantled Ronan's carefully constructed facade, exposing his affair and financial misdeeds to his employer, leading to his dismissal. We used social engineering to sow discord between Ronan and Celeste, planting seeds of doubt that slowly eroded their relationship. And all the while, Ronan remained unaware of the full scope of our plan, his arrogance blinding him to the impending doom that was about to descend upon him. As the weeks passed, I watched with a grim satisfaction as Ronan's carefully constructed world began to crumble around him. With Everett's guidance and Margot's unwavering support, I systematically dismantled every aspect of Ronan's life, leaving him desperate and powerless. First, I targeted his career. Using information from the private investigator, I meticulously laid out the evidence of Ronan's financial misdeeds and his affair with Celeste to his employer. Within days, he was summoned to a meeting and unceremoniously fired, his reputation in shambles. The look of utter disbelief on Ronan's face when he returned home, his briefcase clutched tightly in his hand, was almost enough to make me feel remorse. But then I remembered the anguish he had inflicted on me, the way he had so callously discarded our marriage, and any pity I might have felt dissipated. What is the meaning of this, Alara? He demanded, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and desperation. How dare you meddle in my professional life? I met his gaze unflinchingly, my expression cold and impassive. I told you, Ronan, you've taken everything from me, and now it's time for you to pay. Margot, who had been silently observing from the corner, spoke up, her voice laced with venom. You have no one to blame but yourself, you foolish boy. Your greed and your selfishness have brought this upon you. Ronan's eyes darted between us, his face flushed with rage. This isn't over, Alara. Celeste and I will find a way to start a new life, and you won't be able to stop us. I laughed, the sound devoid of any warmth. Oh, Ronan, you still don't understand, do you? Celeste is not who you think she is. She's been using you all along, draining your resources to fund her own criminal activities. The color drained from Ronan's face, and for a moment I saw a flicker of doubt cross his features. No, that can't be true. Celeste loves me. She would never. Open your eyes, Ronan, Margot interjected, her frail frame shaking with barely contained fury. That woman is a snake, and she's been playing you for a fool. And now you're about to lose everything because of your own arrogance and stupidity. Ronan's expression darkened, and he took a step towards us, his fists clenched at his sides. I won't let you ruin this for me, Alara. Celeste and I are going to be together, no matter what it takes. Oh, but you already have, Ronan. I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You see, we've been working with a private investigator, and he's uncovered the truth about Celeste's involvement with a notorious criminal network. Ronan's eyes widened, and for a moment he seemed to lose his footing, the realization of his mistake dawning on him. You're lying. Celeste would never. Believe it, Ronan, I interrupted, my tone unyielding. Celeste is nothing more than a con artist, and you've been her pawn all along. And now it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. With that, I turned on my heel and left the room, Margot following close behind. As we walked away, I could feel Ronan's eyes burning into my back, the weight of his rapidly crumbling world bearing down on him. It was a small victory, but it was only the beginning. I knew that Ronan and Celeste wouldn't go down without a fight, and I was more than ready to meet them head-on. This was a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to emerge victorious. As the weeks passed, Ronan's world continued to crumble around him. The revelations about Celeste's criminal connections and his own misdeeds had a devastating impact, shattering the carefully constructed facade he had built. I watched with a mix of satisfaction and pity as Ronan's life unraveled. He lost his job, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. Celeste, once the object of his affection, turned on him, abandoning him in his darkest hour. The day Ronan finally realized the full extent of his downfall was etched into my memory. I'll never forget the look of utter despair on his face as he stood before us, his shoulders slumped in defeat. This can't be happening, he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. Celeste, she's betrayed me. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, it's all gone. Margot, her frail frame belying the steely resolve in her eyes, stepped forward, her expression unforgiving. That's what you get, Ronan, for your greed and your selfishness. You deserve every bit of this punishment. Ronan's gaze snapped to his mother, a flicker of defiance igniting in his eyes. How dare you, Mother? This is all your fault and Alara's. If you two hadn't meddled in my life, I'd be happy right now, with Celeste and our child. I felt a surge of anger at his words, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. Your happiness? What about my happiness, Ronan? What about the life we built together? You threw it all away without a second thought. Ronan scoffed, shaking his head. You were never enough for me, Alara. Celeste understood me in a way you never could. She saw my potential, my ambition. You were just a burden, holding me back. The words felt like a physical blow, and I had to fight the urge to lash out at him. But before I could respond, Margot stepped in, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. How dare you, you ungrateful boy. Alara has sacrificed everything for this family, for you. And this is how you repay her? With lies and betrayal? Ronan's expression hardened, and he took a step towards Margot, his voice laced with venom. Stay out of this, Mother. This is between Alara and me. No, Ronan, I interjected, my voice steady despite the maelstrom of emotions raging within me. This affects all of us. Your actions have consequences, and now you're going to face them. Ronan's eyes widened as I produced a small recording device, the display flashing with the timestamp of our previous confrontation. What is this? Insurance, I said, my lips curling into a grim smile. You see, Ronan, I knew you wouldn't go down without a fight, so I made sure to document everything, including your confession of infidelity and your admission of financial crimes. Ronan's face drained of color, and he took a step back, his hands trembling. You can't do this. That recording is inadmissible, and you have no proof of my wrongdoings. I shook my head, my expression unyielding. Oh, but we do, Ronan. Everett has been working tirelessly to uncover the truth, and he's compiled a mountain of evidence against you and your precious Celeste. Ronan's eyes darted between Margot and me, his usual bravado crumbling in the face of our unwavering resolve. This can't be happening, he whispered, his voice laced with despair. But it is, Ronan, I said, my tone laced with a sense of finality. And now it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. With those words, I turned and walked away, leaving Ronan to confront the grim reality of his shattered dreams. As I did so, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction, not out of cruelty, but from the knowledge that justice was finally being served. As Ronan's world crumbled around him, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction wash over me. The evidence we had gathered, meticulously compiled by Everett, had proven to be our trump card. I watched as Ronan's arrogance and self-assurance melted away, replaced by a growing desperation. He stood before us, his face a mask of disbelief and fury, as I revealed the full extent of my plan. "This can't be happening," he stammered, his eyes darting between Margot and me. "You can't do this to me. I won't let you ruin everything I've worked for." I felt a surge of vindication at his words, knowing that the tables had finally turned. "Oh, but we can, Ronan. And we will. You see, we have recordings of our previous confrontations, where you've openly confessed to your infidelity and financial misdeeds." Ronan's face drained of color, and he took a step back, his hands trembling. "No, that's impossible. You couldn't have—" I held up a hand, silencing him. "But we did, Ronan. And that's not all. Everett has uncovered a wealth of evidence linking you and Celeste to a vast network of criminal activities." Margot stepped forward, her eyes narrowed in contempt. "You thought you could get away with your betrayal, didn't you, boy? Well, now you're going to pay for your sins, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Ronan's expression twisted with anguish and rage. "You're lying. Celeste would never betray me like this. She loves me. She needs me." I shook my head, my voice laced with a sense of pity. "I'm afraid that's not the case, Ronan. Celeste has been using you all along, draining your resources to fund her own criminal ventures. She never cared about you, only about what you could provide for her." Ronan's knees buckled, and he sank into a nearby chair, his head in his hands. "No, no," he muttered, the words barely audible. "This can't be happening. My life, my future, everything I've worked for." I watched him, my heart hardening against the sight of his despair. After everything he had done to me, to us, I felt no remorse for the consequences he now faced. "It's over, Ronan," I said, my voice firm. "You're going to be held accountable for your actions, both legally and financially, and Celeste will face the consequences of her crimes as well." Ronan looked up, his eyes wild with desperation. "Please, Alara, you have to help me. I'll do anything, just make this go away. I can't lose everything. I can't." I held up a hand, silencing him. "It's too late for that, Ronan. You made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences. Margot and I, we're moving on. We're going to start a new life, one without you in it." Ronan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He sat there, utterly defeated, as the reality of his downfall sank in. I turned to Margot, a small, sad smile on my lips. "Come on, Mother, let's go. We have a future to build." As Margot and I walked away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. Ronan had betrayed me, but in the end, justice had prevailed. And now, with the remaining assets from our marriage, Margot and I could start anew, free from the shadow of his deceit. As Ronan's world crumbled around him, Margot and I wasted no time in moving on with our lives. With the remainder of our assets, we were able to secure a comfortable new home in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, a fresh start away from the pain and betrayal we had endured. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief as we settled into our new surroundings, the weight of the past few months slowly lifting from my shoulders. Margot, too, seemed to thrive in our new environment, her mobility issues improving as she engaged with the local community. "It's amazing how much better I feel being out of that old house," Margot said one evening as we sat together on our patio, the setting sun casting a warm glow across the well-manicured lawn. "That place held so many memories, both good and bad. Now it's like we can breathe again." I nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "I know what you mean, Mother. It's been a long and difficult journey, but I'm grateful we have this chance to start anew." Margot reached out and squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and affection. "And I'm grateful to have you, my dear. You've been through so much, and yet you've come out of it stronger than ever." I felt a surge of emotion at her words, and I blinked back the tears that threatened to fall. "I couldn't have done it without you, Margot. Your support, your unwavering belief in me, it's what kept me going." Margot chuckled, her expression softening. "Nonsense, my dear. You are the one who took charge, who fought back against that despicable son of mine. I may have provided a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on, but you were the one who orchestrated his downfall." I nodded, a sense of pride swelling in my chest. "It wasn't easy, but I knew I had to do it. Ronan took so much from me, from us. I couldn't just let him walk away and start a new life, not after everything he's done." Margot's expression sobered, and she squeezed my hand again. You're right, Alara. Ronan deserved every bit of what he got, and I'm glad to see that he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon. It was a peaceful scene, a far cry from the turmoil we had experienced just a few months ago. You know, I said, breaking the silence, I think I'm ready to start focusing on my own future again. I've spent so long taking care of others, it's time I started taking care of myself. Margot smiled, her eyes sparkling with a newfound energy. I couldn't agree more, my dear, and I'm more than happy to lend a hand. After all, we're in this together, now and always. With that, we rose from our seats and headed inside, the warmth of the evening air enveloping us. As I walked through the halls of our new home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and optimism for the future. Ronan's betrayal had shattered my world, but with Margot by my side, I was ready to rebuild it, brick by brick. This was a new chapter, one filled with the promise of redemption and the pursuit of happiness. And as I looked to the road ahead, I knew that whatever challenges lay in wait, I was more than ready to face them head on.